Hi everyone, I'm Brian. This is Above Board. I'm happy to be back with a fresh start, and today I'm going to be providing my thoughts on Dune Imperium, the new game based on Frank Herbert's novels, with art concepts influenced by the new Denis Villeneuve directed film due out later this year. Whether you're familiar with the novels, a fan of the original 1984 film by David Lynch, or the miniseries of the early 2000s, there's no mistaking the theme here. Dune is a much loved science fiction franchise known for its grand scope and political intrigue. Set more than 10,000 years in our future, the universe at that time depends on the spice melange, found only on Arrakis, otherwise known as Dune. A byproduct of the colossal sandworms that inhabit Dune, the spice expands human consciousness, allows the mutated Spacing Guild navigators to fold space, making interstellar travels possible, and gives the mysterious Bene Gesserit their powers of premonition and prophecy. As a result, four great houses of the Landsraad feature here to compete for control of Dune, seeking alliances with powerful factions from the Fremen of Arrakis or the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood to the enigmatic Spacing Guild or the Emperor of the known universe himself, Shaddam IV. Game studio Direwolf brings this struggle to your table in this latest iteration of the Dune universe. Not to be confused with the earlier Dune board game, this new take draws its cues from modern board games such as Direwolf's Clank series. Combining elements of deck building with worker placement and a smooth combat system, Dune Imperium provides a robust and deeply thematic experience. As you can probably tell by my ramblings, I'm a huge fan of the Dune universe, so seeing these heavy concepts brought to bear in such a slick and accessible format pleased me to no end. While I enjoyed the original Dune board game, or rather the Gale Force 9 remake, I found it to be something of a slog to get to the table, with the best experience taking the full 6 players to really get the most out of the nuances of the game. Not so with Dune Imperium. Setup was easy and intuitive, with clear iconography and a well-written rulebook that makes learning the game a breeze. Having a separate rules sheet for solo and two-player games made this even simpler. My take on this game is primarily from a solo perspective, so bear that in mind when deciding if this game is right for you. At first glance, those familiar with the Clank series of games will immediately notice its DNA in Dune Imperium. Like Clank, players in Dune Imperium begin with a starting deck of 10 cards, which are added to over the course of the game from the equally familiar Imperium deck and the Reserve. Selections of cards you can purchase to strengthen your deck and provide access to the different actions on the board. However, that's where the similarities with Clank end and Dune Imperium begins to take on a life of its own. Each player begins with 2 agents, or workers, which are placed turn by turn on the various spaces on the board by spending a card from your hand to place the agent on the desired space, paying any associated cost, and taking the action or collecting the reward for that space. A third agent can be unlocked during gameplay. Once a player has placed all of their agents or declines to place any remaining agents, the remaining cards in the player's hands are revealed, and the players may collect any awarded resources or purchase cards from the Imperium deck row or the Reserve. The winner is whomever has the most victory points when either the conflict deck runs dry or when a player reaches 10 victory points on the score track, triggering the end of the game. While this may sound simple on the surface, and it is, the real strategy comes from deciding how to manage your hand and deciding when, where, and if to place an agent. I found myself agonizing over which spaces to take with only my 2 or 3 agents. I often wished I had just one more agent or a couple more points to spend on purchasing cards, and that's what I enjoyed most about Dune Imperium. This game is extremely tight on both the number of cards and actions you can utilize, as well as the acquisition of victory points. Reaching 10 victory points to end the game may not sound like a tall order, but trust me when I say, if you're given the chance to win 2 victory points during combat, you're going to take big risks to secure them. Speaking of combat, the conflict system makes engaging in battles fun, risky, and highly rewarding. During each turn, the players may have the opportunity to place troops in their garrison depicted on these circles, or the conflict area, marked by the 2 crossed swords between the garrisons. Deciding how many troops to commit to combat and how many to retain at your garrison for future turns feels like you're a commander in charge of precious few soldiers. You need to make each one count. Even after committing what you feel are more than enough troops, the battle could still be won by an apparently weaker force once any combat bonuses are revealed. This keeps the tension high, and you'll soon realize that not committing to a battle can also be a valid strategy. So, what did I like about Dune Imperium? Well, of course, the theme is something I greatly enjoy, and seeing the new artwork based on the upcoming film was a real pleasure. I'm glad they went with hand-drawn art rather than production stills, as this artwork adds a certain gravitas to the game that you just don't get with still shots. I also enjoyed the simplicity of the design. There's nothing overproduced or superfluous here. Everything you see is necessary and doesn't outstay its welcome. That having been said, I know there have been those who are discontent with the production and components. In fact, there is an official component upgrade pack due out next month that seeks to address this issue, replacing many of the game's simple wooden and cardboard components with plastic minis. I may end up getting this simply because I enjoy tricking out my games as part of my love for the hobby, but I actually really like the included components. So, that's my take on Dune Imperium. For those of you who have played, what are your thoughts? How do you feel it compares to the original Dune game? And if you've been sitting on the fence about picking up a copy, what is it that's holding you back? I always enjoy reading your comments, so please feel free to let me know what your views are on Dune Imperium, or even the Dune universe as a whole. I look forward to bringing you a lot more content this year, so if you've enjoyed this video, I invite you to please subscribe, as your support helps motivate this channel. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and happy gaming.